is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and I've got another detailed forecast update for you for the severe thunderstorm situation through southeast Queensland today on the 23rd of October 2025. There's a lot to get through today. We have a severe thunderstorm chance, and a severe thunderstorm risk is quite substantial towards the northwest of Brisbane outside of Caboolture and up towards Kingaroy and Gympie. All the details on that plus more coming up in today's weather forecast update. If you're brand new to the channel, please do consider subscribing, but let's get stuck straight into things today with the severe thunderstorm risk through southeast Queensland. Now, it's a substantial one once again. It's a very similar to setup to what we had last Saturday with those whopper severe thunderstorms outside of Boonah and Beaudesert that then crept up towards Ipswich and dropped giant hailstones around Caboolture. The setup is exactly the same with that sea breeze line coming in at about 4 o'clock, which is going to bring that cool change in that's going to be the catalyst for these severe thunderstorms. The one thing that is different is it's actually expected to be hotter, and there is more convective available potential energy today. Now, hotter doesn't always mean great because there is a lack of humidity in the environment, which I can show you by looking at the humidity graph. Throughout the course of today, we are expecting there to be a lot of dry air around where these thunderstorms are expected to fire up. It means it's got to get really hot for these thunderstorms to get themselves going, and the marker that I've been using for today is about 37 to 37.5 degrees Celsius. If they can get them, if the temperatures can get up to about that 37.5 degrees Celsius through a wide swathe of locations around Gympie, then we're definitely looking at a widespread chance of a strong severe thunderstorm outbreak with a couple of significant severe thunderstorms developing in the late afternoon and early evening. Well, Gympie's forecast is 38, and a lot of locations around Gympie are expected to touch on towards 39 or even 40 in a few spots. So it is going to be warm enough and the temperature looks to be there. And as such, we've now got multiple forecast models calling for some significant thunderstorm potential through this part of Queensland. The South Burnett forecast district north of the Ivanhoe outlook and then inland from the Sunshine Coast and the Fraser Coast. This area here around Gympie, Goomeri, Kingaroy, Kilcoy, Yarraman, Tyro, all looking at the chance of severe thunderstorms through this afternoon and this evening. This is a look at the European model. You can see significant thunderstorm development occurring after about 4:35 o'clock in the afternoon outside of Gympie and Maroochydore here, with the chance of some strong thunderstorms also a little bit further inland north of the Ivanhoe Dam and Ipswich, and the isolated risk of a couple of weaker thunderstorms a little bit further south of Ipswich. Temperatures aren't expected to get as warm south of Ipswich, so around your Boonah, Beaudesert and Warwick, and as such severe thunderstorm potential down there is actually quite low today. And it's the same deal in Brisbane. It's not going to get warm enough for widespread severe thunderstorms in the Brisbane city area, but in this pocket of Queensland it's definitely going to get hot enough, and we're definitely looking at the chance of some strong severe thunderstorms developing. The convective forecast model as well from the Access C is also calling for some strong thunderstorms, particularly around the Ipswich area. They've got one on the forecast here, and I generally find the Access convective to be deadly accurate, especially on days and setups like this. But the main story of the show is going to be this one here outside of Kilcoy and Esk, north of the Ivanhoe Dam, heading up towards Kenilworth and then just south of Gympie. This is in a very similar location. It's about 30 kilometres towards the northwest of that strong storm that blew through the Samford and then the Caboolture area last weekend on Saturday, dropping giant hailstones. And it looks like we're going to have a very similar thunderstorm to what we did have last weekend in this part of Queensland. Interesting stuff, and this one definitely looks like it is going to pack a punch. Now, again, the Access convective is a very short-range convective forecast model which uses a lot of detail in its forecast, and that's why it can be so deadly accurate. It absolutely nailed the thunderstorm outbreak last Saturday, and that's not the only thunderstorm outbreak it's nailed across southeast Queensland in the last 12 months. It's a great forecast model to use, and generally speaking, when it says isolated thunderstorm activity like we're seeing developing outside of Kilcoy, I watch and listen very attentively, and that's exactly what we're expecting today. Now, in terms of the risks in regards to these thunderstorms, well, it is a very dry environment, as we did talk about. In fact, if we have a look at a sounding here, you can see that there is a lot of dry air in the environment, especially into the upper levels as well. It looks like there is going to be a nice dry slot around the 500 to the 400 HPA range, which will be conducive to large hailstone development. But it definitely looks like we've got a drier than usual environment, which means high-based thunderstorms are expected. These are your low precipitation storm modes. We're not expecting heavy rainfall at this point in time, and small hailstones are also pretty much out of the question. If it's going to hail, they're going to be large or they're going to be giant. We're not talking about slushy hailstones coming through today. They'll also be quite sporadic in nature. We're going to be seeing those hailstones very few and far between in these thunderstorm bases compared to where they normally are. So we're not going to be talking about a very widespread hail risk, but definitely if the hailstones do come down, like I said, they will be very large in size compared to the average. In terms of locations that are likely to be affected by these thunderstorms, well, we're not talking about Brisbane or the Gold Coast today, which is a big relief, because if these thunderstorms were expected to blow up into the Brisbane or the Gold Coast area, we'd be looking at a very significant day for thunderstorm activity. But I definitely reckon locations in this part of Queensland here, it's kind of in this grey zone where not many people are, north of Kilcoy and more, and then outside of Kenilworth, Kadanga, and then around Gympie, Kilcavan and Kingaroy is definitely a good chance of seeing severe thunderstorms. Moore and Kilcoy look to be the most likely locations to see severe thunderstorm activity. We may even see some severe thunderstorm activity down around the Ipswich and the Harrisvale area, but again, a lower chance considering it's just not going to get as warm down there. And even Boona and Beaudesert are also a weak chance of seeing severe thunderstorm activity later today. But again, because it's not going to get warm enough down there, it's not looking overly likely at this point in time. Severe thunderstorms later in the night will then blow through into the Sunshine Coast. We're expecting a few thunderstorms to make it out towards the Glasshouse Mountains north of Caboolture. A very slim chance of thunderstorm activity in Caboolture, but it is a chance that is still there. But the Glasshouse Mountains expected to cop the messier ends of these thunderstorms, and we may even see severe thunderstorm activity making it as far north as Noosa as well. In fact, it doesn't look like Gympie is overly likely to see severe thunderstorm activity today either, and same with locations further inland out towards Kingaroy. We're talking about a very isolated risk of strong severe thunderstorms, and they've got to break through that cap, which has an index reading of 2 degrees today, of 2, which is very, very high for thunderstorms. Normally anything over 1 starts to raise alarm bells. Anything over 3 is a complete write-off, but today 2 kind of in that middle ground. If it gets hot enough, which I'm expecting it to do so, some big thunderstorms are most certainly a possibility. And one of the reasons why it's just not going to get hot enough down in towards southeast Queensland is this high cloud. We do have some pretty dense high cloud coverage around the Gold Coast and Boona and Beaudesert and through the Gold Coast hinterland as well. This pretty much writes off and eliminates all of the thunderstorm chances down there. You can see temperature observations about 5 degrees below where they are now on the Sunshine Coast, 31 right now inland from Maroochydore, 28 here at Redcliffe just towards the north of Brisbane. So it's already really beginning to get quite hot in a few of these locations, and we're just at 9 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, very, very warm day inbound across southeast Queensland. Stay hydrated, but at least for the southern parts of Queensland, closer to the New South Wales border, where those thunderstorms blew up last weekend, it does look to be a little bit colder, in part due to this high cloud coverage that's beginning to block things off a little bit. So good news down there, but it definitely looks like some gnarly storms are possible north of the Wivenhoe Dam, out around Esk and Kilcoy. Definitely a day to watch, that's for sure. And if very dangerous severe thunderstorms do develop later this afternoon and this evening, which is looking possible, I will be running live coverage as well. So make sure you are subscribed and stay tuned for that. Lots of updates coming through on the Facebook page today as well. So make sure you are following that as well. A couple of isolated thunderstorms expected further inland around Rolleston and Injune, maybe north of Tarooma as well. They'll be weak in nature. We're only expecting a few convective stacks to blow up on each other, but not expecting too much out there. Some thunderstorms also possible around Emerald through tomorrow. We may see a few showers tending to thunderstorms later on Saturday as well, inland from the Capricorn coastline and even down through the Fraser coast as well. And a few severe thunderstorms are also going to be a possibility in Saturday's environment, considering convective available potential energy values are going to be quite high on Saturday, particularly through the morning. We're looking at these values climbing up to about 2,000, which is pretty much where they are today. We may see some strong thunderstorm activity in this part of Queensland as well on Saturday. And even a quick look at the sounding in the environment, it does show that big dry slot on the Sunshine Coast, or this actually the Fraser Coast here towards the west rather of Harvey Bay. This could be a conducive condition or a conducive setup here for some strong severe thunderstorm activity. And again, in a highly sheared environment, definitely one to watch in the North Burnett on Saturday. And then Sunday is also another day to watch some widespread severe thunderstorm activity as possible on Sunday. We'll be talking about the risk of some squall lines once again back on the forecast for Brisbane, but it really looks like Sunday's forecast is way too uncertain and way too hit and miss at this point in time. So if I had to comment on it, I'm saying that thunderstorms are very likely at around the Charleville, Augathella, Injune, Taroom, Chinchilla, and even up towards Rolleston, Billawheeler and Eidsvold sort of area on Sunday night. And some strong thunderstorms are very much possible earlier on in the afternoon as well. It's a conducive environment for severe thunderstorms and potentially some organised severe thunderstorms as well, but it's an environment with a lot of moisture in it, so these thunderstorms will very quickly upscale into high precipitation squall lines, and we're looking at these squall lines heading towards the northeast throughout the course of the day into the late evening hours, bringing lots of much needed rainfall to these parts of Queensland, which is quite exciting indeed. The Rockhampton Dome and the Gladstone Dome will be turned on to the max by the looks of things on Sunday. Both locations look like they're going to be missing out on storms. Bundaberg and then down towards Harvey Bay should cop the tail end of these storms, but they will be a lot weaker down there. And then in terms of the forecast for Brisbane and the Gold Coast, at this point in time, it's just way too uncertain for me to be making comments on it or reliable predictions or forecasts at this point in time. Conditions do look conducive for thunderstorms though down into the Brisbane city area, which is why I was a bit confused as to why they were carked off yesterday's forecast. But you can see around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, convective available potential energy values are really high. And again, if we do take a look at a convective sounding here early on in the afternoon, we do have that dry slot in the lower levels of the atmosphere as well. And it is also a highly sheet environment. We will most certainly be talking about low-based, high precipitation storm modes coming through on Sunday, which means lots of rainfall if thunderstorms do make it into the Brisbane city area or into the Gold Coast. And once again, it's going to be a hot enough day for thunderstorms to develop up around that 35-degree mark through the Brisbane city area, but there are still just a few too many discrepancies for me to be making a rock-solid comment on the thunderstorm chances into the Brisbane city area on Sunday. The good news is it looks to kick off a week of rainfall, and you can see that rainfall really does begin to kick off as a low-pressure system gets itself going out into the Tasman Sea, but some very widespread shower and thunderstorm activity is forecast to occur from Monday afternoon in Western Queensland, and then that contracts over towards Eastern Queensland around the Central Coast and into the North Coast, so Townsville, Mackay, the Whitsundays, and then even down towards Rockhampton, Bundaberg and Gladstone through early Tuesday morning. And this will be showers and thunderstorms tending to rainfall at times along multiple areas of low pressure and low pressure system troughs. And then that's going to provide some much needed rainfall to these parched areas of Queensland through Tuesday, Wednesday and into Thursday. There are some substantial rainfall accumulation numbers actually on the forecast, and it definitely looks like Tuesday and Wednesday, especially Wednesday morning, shaping up to be a pretty wet period through parts of Queensland, through a very expansive area of Queensland actually. And you can see 4-day rainfall accumulations under multiple thunderstorms and shower events, particularly south of Mackay through Ogmore, then down through Rockhampton, Gladstone, Bundaberg, through the Fraser Coast and then into the Sunshine Coast and even down in towards southeast Queensland. We're looking at these numbers here between that 30 to 60 millimetre mark and some isolated falls approaching 100 to 125 millimetres depending on what showers and thunderstorms come through. Again, the forecast modelling is still quite uncertain for this part of Queensland. There are still a lot of models chopping and changing on what they do expect, but generally speaking, I definitely reckon the Capricorn coastline is going to pick up multiple areas of 100 millimetres over that 4-day period between Monday out to Friday morning, and there could even be some 125, 150 millimetre accumulations along the Fraser Coast and then down into the Sunshine Coast as well. So one to watch, that's for sure, but it's a very complicated series of low pressure systems coming through, and I'll have some more information over on the Facebook page and a full detailed forecast once we do start to see some congruency between forecast models and a little bit more certainty in this rainfall event as well, because it is still quite an uncertain feature on our forecast modelling. As we do push things out though, you can see just a massive expanse of thunderstorms expected Monday afternoon and evening. Lots of pulse thunderstorm activity and some outbreak thunderstorm activity into Western Queensland, heaps of pulse and even some supercell organised thunderstorm activity possible closer to the East Queensland coastline, and we will see this thunderstorm activity carry over into Tuesday morning as well. Lots of thunderstorms expected through Tuesday, even in towards Wednesday before storms do begin to weaken off a little bit through Thursday and Friday into the last couple of days of October. But a very stormy period lies ahead through Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday through parts of coastal Queensland, south of Mackay, right down towards Brisbane and the Gold Coast, with the wettest and the stormiest areas, like I said, expected around Rockhampton, Gladstone, Agnes Water and Bundaberg. Definitely a feature to watch and one to get excited for, because it is going to be, like I said, providing some much needed rainfall accumulations to these parts of Queensland. Like I said, falls between 30 to 60 millimetres and falls up to 100 millimetres are now possible. It's not great, but again, considering how dry these places have been, it is very welcome rainfall indeed. Now, well offshore from the Cocos-Keeling Islands, we have been tracking this tropical low pressure system, which has since kind of blown itself apart. We still do have this organised stack of convection here well to the west of the Cocos-Keeling Islands, and this makes it even further away from the West Australian coastline this morning. It's not an organised tropical cyclone, it's barely a tropical low, and it really is kind of holding on as it moves out into the French area of responsibility over in Mauritius. This system here is now no longer a concern to the Bureau of Meteorology. We will still keep an eye on this weather system here. It doesn't like it's going to be doing anything, but it is still an interesting feature to track, and we're mostly looking at these sort of systems here in the activity well offshore from Western Australia, not because it is a WA cyclone or tropical low threat, but because it is an interesting feature and it shows that the wet season is now really beginning to ramp up, and we are beginning to see increased signals of tropical activity and rainfall activity in this part of the WA waters. And as we would expect as well, considering we are in that very strong negative Indian Ocean dipole and sea temperatures are very warm well offshore from Western Australia, a lot of this activity is going to begin to pipe up very soon, and we will be seeing an increase in tropical low and tropical cyclone numbers offshore from Western Australia, which will likely translate to an increased amount of rainfall coming through across Western Australia this wet season. Again, exciting stuff, and certainly something to get very excited for if you do live into the Pilbara, the Kimberley region and tropical cyclones, and rainfall is your cup of tea up there. We're looking at, again, another active season for these places. But apart from that, not an awful lot more to be talking about in today's weather forecast update. That strong storm that's been giving southeastern Australia an absolute hiding over the last 48 hours has now since left. We still do have some strong wind gusts here and there, and a lot of thick cloud now moving in towards the northwest of Tasmania, very low-lying cloud as well. And showers and storms are expected to continue here and there for the west coast of Tasmania, not to mention it's bitterly cold through parts of Victoria this morning, down below zero through some of the elevated locations, and again, very close to zero for a wide swathe of locations as well. The good news is the heat is over for New South Wales. They had a very hot run yesterday. We had temperatures up into the 40s through parts of the Central Coast. Taree got to 41.2, absolutely obliterating the previous October record. And again, a lot of other hot temperatures around Sydney. It was unbearable. And I'm actually surprised we didn't see a widespread severe thunderstorm outbreak. Conditions weren't really there for them, but given the heat, thunderstorms don't find it difficult to develop in those sort of conditions. And I think that that's the exact same case we're going to see through parts of Queensland today, that as soon as these thunderstorms start to develop in these really hot environments, they are just going to go absolutely nuts. So again, definitely something to be watching. But that is going to do it for me today. There's plenty more content coming today over on the Facebook page, so make sure you do stick around for that. I've got plenty of posts lined up talking about the severe thunderstorm chances across southeast Queensland, and also, like I said, live coverage if these thunderstorms do go severe or very dangerous around the Brisbane city area. It'll be a short live, that's for sure, because we're not talking about this thunderstorm threat being too expansive, but I will still be providing live coverage if these thunderstorms do become dangerous in any way, shape or form. Hope you have a great day. It's just one more day after today till the weekend. I'll catch you all in the next storm. Special shout out to the channel sponsors as well. Their names are on screen right now. I could not run the show without them, and as always, their support is massively appreciated. But that is all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.